Hi, Martin Yusuf here. Today I'm talking about supermarket spirituality, and there's a huge amount of talk and discussion going on about global shifts of consciousness and moving into the fifth dimension, and you have to look at the types of people that are promoting these ideas and how their life is, and you have to be the change that you want to see in the world. No truer word was spoken. And I've been to lots of groups, and I've been around for a long time, and you go to a group of new age hippies where people are promoting spiritual ideas, and they're either stoned on pot, drinking alcohol, eating meat, and or they're obese or gambling, or they have lifestyle addictions. And to me, if you want to develop spiritually, you've got to get a hold of your lifestyle first. And the obesity epidemic, especially in the Western world, is unbelievable. And what do you do when you meet a person and they really believe they're spiritual, but they're hugely overweight, or they're drunk, or they're stoned, or they're doing hallucinogenics, and they're not just taking them once, but they're addicted to them. It's very difficult. It reminds me once of the the funny story of the Irish Hare Krishna guy who used to drink 5 or 6 pints of Guinness before he'd go to the temple and meditate, and eventually he got kicked out. And fringes of society just full of people with lifestyle addictions. They want a sense of belonging, and they want to belong. But you've got to raise your vibration, and you've got to change yourself, and become a vegetarian, stop eating meat, start using natural products, and these types of changes. Stop gambling, stop drinking Coca-Cola. And I just don't think the world is really ready for this global change. I mean, if it's going to come from the individuals, people are not ready to change. So I think the message has to be simple for the masses anyway. And it's got to start with things like diet. Prana is the life force. It's called chi or kai. It's got a lot of different names, but prana is the basic life force. And the way that you express your energy depends on the food that you eat. And if you eat raw food and have a healthy diet, you express more prana, more chi. And when you listen to someone, I mean, like I quite like David Icke, but if you look at the state or the condition that the man is in physically, he's not that old. He's in his 60s. He's got a huge belly. He looks terribly sick. And you think, well, can I take this guy's spiritual message properly? Does this guy meditate? Does he have a healthy diet? Does he exercise? Because spirituality is about embracing all of these things. And then you get, on the other extreme, you get people that are in the ashram all the time. They're meditating 8 to 10 hours a day, and they're not grounded. They're not in touch with reality. And they're so far off on the starseed galaxy revolution thing that the common person is not going to be able to relate to them at all. So I see a huge gap, I see a huge disparity between the common person and the spiritual groups. And if you sit in the lotus position for 8 or 10 hours and you have a dot on your forehead and you're wearing a sari, that's all very well. But I mean, do you then leave the ashram and then go out for drinks on Friday night with your friends in a bar? I mean, it's, if you're on the spiritual path, then you're on it, and you've got to look at all these areas of your life. And I don't like Scientology one bit. But one of the first things that they did when people went in to see them, or for any kind of conditioning, they made them abstain from all alcohol, drugs, smoking and sugar. I'm not sure about sex and masturbation, but just by purely doing this for a 7-day period, people had profound changes. Like just by going off the sugar and not drinking and smoking for 7 days, people went through huge psychological shifts within a really short space of time. Now, I'm not advocating Scientology, but I'm advocating the process. And when you're detoxing in this process, if you just cut out sugar for a week, you're going to feel very, very different, and your perception and consciousness is going to change. So, where do we start? We start with the basic things. But to combine them all together, people want spirituality, but they don't want to change their lives. And that's the huge problem. And as I said, there's a huge disparity. And the other thing, like talking about the control system, is one thing, but society has to run. And all these New Age gurus that go on about the control system, sure, it is a controlled system. It's very controlled, and some governments are fascist and they're dictators. But you talk about the global monetary control system. There are times when you will really need money, and you will really appreciate having a MasterCard if you're in a third world country, if you need something. And none of these issues come into question. Food has to be produced, people have to eat, and I don't see like the global conspiracy theorists going back and farming the product themselves. That's never on the agenda. They never say, okay, I'm going to change it, I'm going to start my own vegetable garden. Those types of issues never get raised because people know that they're in a controlled system, but they accept it because they don't actually want to do the real work to change it. And also, like, creating your own produce is just economically unviable. What are you going to do? Wait for a year for your crops to be produced before you can eat? So some aspects of the system we're in are very, very good. And I think probably this new movement towards macro foods is the start of the real change. The people that are involved in food technology, they're the real people that are changing. That's where the consciousness shift's coming from. It's not from the gurus in the ashrams that are charging thousands of dollars for people to go and raise their frequency or to meditate. The real changes in this society and in our consciousness are happening at a grassroots level, and either you're aware of them or they're not, or you're not. When you go into the supermarket, people who create gluten-free products, people who create dairy-free products, people who create sugar-free products, this is all part of the revolution that's taking place. And it doesn't need some big-mouth New Age guru to suggest that that the system's so controlled that it needs to be destroyed and something else needs to be created. It's just going to be a gradual shift of awareness and consciousness and diet and exercise, and this is happening. I mean, you go into the supermarket, for heaven's sakes, and you see a Boost juice, you see fruit juices sold on every corner, and natural yogurts and natural products and vitamins. Human life is developing and consciousness is evolving very, very well. And it really annoys me when people promote this idea that we're moving into the dark ages. I mean, 500 years ago, we didn't even have the electric light bulb. I mean, if people wanted to write something, they only had light for 8 or 10 hours a day. And in Europe especially, it gets dark in the winter at 4 o'clock, so, they had to write by candlelight and stuff like that. So, you need to think carefully about the system that you're in, and not just say that it's all satanic and it's all controlled. You've got to have some balance and some intelligence around what is going on in the world and the way that the world is evolving and developing. Sure, there's a money pyramid where the few hold the wealth, and I don't think that's particularly a good thing. But the more aware you are of the society that you're in and your values, and the more that you change individually and doing it in an intelligent way, not just suggesting revolution and like smashing the control system. The control system's here for a very good reason. And what happens if all the fluffy New Age revolutionists did take over and start control things? They would just become part of the same system, like Animal Farm by George Orwell, where the controllers got overthrown and the people that took over, then they became the controllers. And we don't want this situation either. And these New Age people, they've got their own agendas, and for some it's about power and wealth, and you've got to bring that into consideration. So all of this is food for thought, and I've lost my train of thought and forgotten what I've started off with. But it's really about thinking very carefully about the system that you're in, and valuing the system that you're in, especially if you're in the Western world. You've got the opportunity to change your diet eat better than you've ever ate. There's more information about diet, nutrition, exercise, because these are the ways that we change spiritually. You know, we do not change spiritually by going to an ashram and meditating on the light and then coming back into the world and eating crap food and not exercising. And you know, you can change your thinking, but the change has to happen from within, from a grassroots level. It has to change with basically food, exercise, awareness of self, and meditation, and those kinds of things can be incorporated into it. But if you really want to evolve spiritually, the easiest way to do it is to get on an alkaline diet. You know, just don't eat acidic foods. You don't need to go to the temple to do that. You know, and from my experience, you know, I've known many people who've been to ashrams in India, and they've come back and their lifestyle hasn't changed one bit. It's just something to talk about, you know, it's something to, you know, it's like a ritual, it's like religion, it's meaningless, you know. And if you're not prepared to change your lifestyle, there's no point going to India or going to an ashram. So many people, they lose the experience, because when they're in the ashram in India, their food is catered for them, they have vegetarian meals, they eat light, the days are structured with meditation and education and some workshops, and the whole lifestyle is structured. You've got to be able to come back into the West and apply those things into Western society, into your Western living, where, you know, where we have computers and mobile phones, and we have a lot of other considerations to incorporate into our life, you know. So I've spoken just briefly about some ideas that I have, and you know, think on these things yourself and think very deeply about the system that you're in. Is it really the control system that it's purported to be, or is it a structure that can give you a platform to be able to transcend and move into another dimension? Thanks.